Good evening, afternoon, morning, night, whenever you find a way to watch or listen to this podcast. It's Omar from the Hardware Pod. I'm joined by a friend of the pod who we had a couple weeks ago, I think, or a week and a half, something like that, where we talked about Major League Football, the Major League, minus the Charlie Sheen. So we're back with more MLFB, and this time we're talking about a leak that happened that Matt was able to catch, and we're just gonna talk about, I guess, that leak and what relates to it. So, Matt, how's everything going?
It's going great, man. It's going good. As far as this leak goes, man, like when I woke up first thing in the morning and I was like, man, I really would like to hear some of the news about MLFB. And I'm scrolling through Twitter, scrolling through the feed, and I'm like, oh, what's this article about this guy Shahuan from he's a defensive end, got 20 sacks. I remembered him, from college. And I'm reading through this and I see, and I'm like, hold on, can I really believe this with my own eyes? It says like something like games will be on in the fall and you could watch them on Amazon Prime. And I had to like take a step back. Like my heart went from 0 to 100 real quick. As an MLFB fan and investor, I was just like, no way. So my immediate reaction, of course, was just plaster this all over the internet because I couldn't control my emotions. I became like a little unstable. I even tried doing my own podcast shortly after that, but I couldn't get through more than 2 minutes of talking without being like, I can't think of anything else to say right now. Like my mind is just like completely blocked. Like I'm overcome with emotion because Amazon Prime would be a big get.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big name. And I think it's great for exposure. It's not like a third part, I guess. I guess yeah, like a lesser known streaming service for sure. It's like it's in the big 3 or 4 or whatever. But the thing is too is like when you're a new league. So my qualm with it is when you're a new league is like, do you really want to put your stuff behind a paywall? And I look at one conference that has given their exclusive, one college conference has given their exclusive broadcasting rights to a paywall. Yeah, I guess like a paywall streaming service in Flow Sports. The Colonial Athletic Association signed a deal with Flow Sports a few years back, and a lot of people have panned that contract. And that even led to James Madison, the flagship school of that conference, leaving for greener pastures in the Sun Belt, and a lot of the other members kind of reeling too as well. So like the plan, I guess, Matt, since you love business, I like this deal is it's so unique to college sports because what they did with this pay-per-view service with the Colonial Athletic Association, what they did was with all the subscription numbers, they then used that money to buy TV time on the CBS Sports Network. And that really hasn't worked out for the conference. So I guess a brief aside to say that when you put your stuff like, I guess paywalled stuff, I guess paywalled services, I guess kind of it's hit or miss. If it's ESPN Plus, an established service, then it's a hit. Amazon Prime is established, but when I don't know how much marketing power they're gonna put to to MLFB if this thing is true.
Well, here's the thing. Even though Amazon Prime or Amazon is a paywall, when you look at cable TV, there's I looked it up, about 75 million cable TV subscribers in the US. How many Amazon Prime subscribers are there? 160 to 200 million, somewhere in that number. So it's a lot more. And when you think about people that, or the XFL, I should say, they're behind a paywall at ESPN. The only really league that isn't behind a paywall is USFL because they have the backing of Fox. Now, maybe there's another broadcast partner we can get into here that will be a big boy in the neighborhood as maybe a next door channel. I mean, no, on my local network, you flip one channel from Fox, and who do you get? Take a guess. Who do you think it is right next to Fox?
Yeah, the
Nope,
CW,
not the CW,
right?
not the CW.
Oh,
it's
shoot.
CBS, the big 3-letter network. And if they can get them, that would be just as big as Amazon, because the thing about CBS is you put them on the sports bar, you put them on, you're just flipping channels on the TV. That's like one of the lowest channels on most people's networks. So when you first turn on your TV, you're usually on a low channel. You flip two channels up, boom, you're right there. That's why they would get probably 500,000 people watching MLFB if they got CBS. But I think with I think you said, I don't know if you said it now or the pregame here, when syndication as an option, right? So if they got on a lesser known place like Stadium, You can actually you can handle that. You brought it up. I'll let you roll with the state. I'm not going to take your thunder and steal your pregame mojo. I'll let you roll into that stadium syndication talk.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I mean, for sure, like on your note with CBS, I mean that I totally agree. And I guess before I talk about stadium and syndication, like when's the window for the MLFB season after, I guess, going forward? Because I know they're not going to keep playing in the summer.
So they're going to be an April through June, July kind of league. So I think next year, from what I've been hearing, rumblings inside MLFB, they really want to expand to the full 8 teams next season with a 10-game regular season plus maybe a 2-week playoff. The playoff is my guess, but they told me a 10-week regular season and plus a playoff championship. So I'm guessing a semifinal and a final, which would bring 12 weeks, which would bring 3 months plus training camp. So April through July sounds like a good kind of time frame. Around the same, they'll be competing with USFL. Now, I know people think USFL, how are they going to compete with USFL? Because it's a bigger league, bigger competition. There's a lot of ways they could compete. One, they could play on weekdays and just not have the games in the same time frame as USFL. Another one is if they were on Amazon Prime, that you could have replays of the game. So, and they could negotiate with Amazon Prime to maybe get a banner ad up there for some of the content to bring in the football fans. Another way with Amazon Prime, they could get viewership and compete with USFL is I know Amazon put Fan Control Football on their main Amazon, because they own Twitch TV. So if they pop them, they would get a lot more engagement as well. Thinking about engagement with a thing like MLFB, people comment, they talk about the stock and it helps the business aspect as well. So that would be a big play as far as getting on the Twitch stream, and getting some of those, MLFB to the moon comments going in the chat and all that good stuff. So that's definitely a possibility, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So the reason I asked that is like lead in sports programming is a huge part of broadcasting with CBS. I was wondering if like the season was going to be in like March or February, because like for CBS, they got the NCAA tournament. I know that's an all-day thing, but I guess like if it starts in February, those games can be the lead-in for like their afternoon college basketball telecast. But that being said, the whole March, or I guess the whole April to July, that's a whole bunch of programming for I guess programming space for CBS to work with. They can use golf as a lead-in to these games, or the other way around, because I'm not sure what CBS's golf TV numbers are like, but I assume they're pretty high, because like there's not pretty high, but I assume they're doing well because they keep broadcasting it.
Yeah, they're putting it on.
Yeah, they're putting it on TV, so something's working. So that's an option as well. Going back to what you started talking about with the stadium and syndication, I'm surprised stadium didn't happen, because let's go back to spring of 2021, where the indoor football league I noticed the indoor football league starts having their game of the week on Saturday nights on both over the air on their syndicated channels and on their Roku app or stream or computer stream as well. And that was something that I looked forward to, on the weekends. Like, oh man, the IFL game of the week, and like the week that my hometown Duke City Gladiators made the game of the week, I treated that like my favorite team was on Monday Night Football. It was an exciting time. So I'm surprised Stadium wasn't a player, because I mean, if you just think about like the leagues, they do live telecasts on Stadium, and they syndicate, whether it be to your local CW or I guess unaffiliated station or your local RSN. I mean, they do syndicate. So I'm surprised Stadium wasn't in the talks there, because, they're a player in football. They're playing Group of 5 football. They broadcast Mountain West games. They broadcast Conference USA games and put them on local channels and regional sports networks. So that could have been a huge win as well. And again, I mean, what's to say that they're not a secondary partner? Because, while in an age like this with streamers, or with streaming services, it's like there really isn't a need for more than one network, honestly, if like you can have the games at like, just stagger the game times and put them online. But even then, Stadium could have been a player too, and I felt like that could have helped the league as well, because a lot of cord cutters that don't have Amazon Prime could have benefited from seeing it on like their local unaffiliated station. You're flipping TV. Say you're watching Me TV, you're watching Happy Days on Me TV at 5:30, I used to do coming back from work, and then all of a sudden at 6 o'clock you have an MLFB game on a weeknight. So that's just my thoughts on that.
Well, the thing about Stadium, Actually, that was gonna be their partner back in 2016. They were under a different name then. It was called American Sports Network, I believe, was the before Stadium, and that's who they became with Stadium. But I think they're going for a bigger name. I think the reason why they can get an Amazon deal is because they don't have to compete with a time slot. You know, it's not like they like, oh, we got to put you in the 7 o'clock time slot. We got to cancel this programming instead or move this around. No, it's like, it's just web hosting. You know, maybe they'll take up some banner ad space, but ultimately that's not really a huge deal. I mean, they because they just rotate those around. You know, I mean, if they try it out and see, oh, we're getting some ratings or we're not getting ratings, they can adjust as they need, or maybe they can pay Amazon some money. I don't know if they're going to pay to do it, because these streaming companies are just eating up content, like all these different companies. I know Netflix was one of the people they were trying to get with, according to their investor deck presentation. So I know they're trying to get on streaming, especially because they're trying to do like a Hard Knocks or some kind of documentary series with their programming. So they're trying to get, you know, like the stories of people's lives and their journey through camp and all the way up, you know, to becoming an NFL player and what it takes to make it in this league and what it takes to make it in alt football. And because it's a bit of a struggle. I mean, you're not making, you know, millions of dollars in these leagues. You know, the MLFB is paying $2,000 a week, and you know, little win bonus. And your microphone's off, by the way. Your microphone's muted.
I got you. Sorry, it was just because you were talking.
Oh, okay. And I lost track of myself. I saw your mouth move, and I'm just like, I couldn't put one in one. I don't know. Anyways, I lost my train of thought. So you take the reins right now.
Oh, you're talking about the how like what it takes to make an alt, what it takes to make it an alt football.
Oh yeah, so
The
like
show, yeah.
during training camp, they're not even getting paid hardly anything, which I can understand because you know they're not guaranteed a roster spot, but they're just getting, you know, enough to make it by. So they're gonna still have to go through the struggle in camp here. They're getting like a per diem for camp. You know, they're getting their food and meals, of course, and their lodging paid for. But yeah, I mean, for compared to USFL, it's not that far off a salary. When you consider that MLFB is paying housing costs, hotel costs for these players, which would amount to, under USFL, they were charging like at first $1,000 a week to players. So, I mean, it's only about a 30% difference in salary between the two, which is a good bit, you know, when you're thinking of like as a person making money, but as a football player trying to make it in a league, you know, getting a respectable salary for a team to take a chance on you as a lower tier, not a lower tier. I don't want to say lower tier, but like as a Division II guy or Division III guy or junior college guy or HBCU guy that might have not got a look by places like USFL, XFL, or the NFL, and you get a chance in the MLFB. But the thing is, here's the thing: a lot of these XFL guys that were getting invites to their camps or to their showcases, you know, they said, "Oh, I can actually get a contract with MLFB. I can get a deal with MLFB." Well, why not take the deal instead of a tryout? You know what I mean? Because MLFB realizes, listen, we can look at tape of guys and know if they're good. We don't have to have them do a dog and pony show, you know, best of show, have them do their little tricks on the field, but we've already seen what you can do in the game. I mean, if you got tape, you got tape. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I didn't think of. Because like the XFL, they have like they have the backing, and even the USFL. So the USFL and XFL both have like the backing of whether it's a network or just one of the most lucrative faces in all of, you know, all the world in
Sports
the Rock with
entertainment.
XFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sports entertainment, or even not even a sports entertainment, in movies too with Dwayne the Rock Johnson. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just, I guess that backing is good to have, but like you said, like a contract in hand with games scheduled, you can't beat that with a lot of these players too. So that definitely is a huge plus. And like I know you mentioned like the opportunities for like a series with Amazon Prime with like all their production abilities and with all their production abilities and budget, you know, having a show like that, like the USFL had, you know, it was United by Football, and like, you know, the way they did it, where like that kind of served as like the pregame show or like the in between the two games, like the pregame show for the day. So like pretty much your spring Saturday was centered around the USFL. You're watching United by Football, watching the footage, you know, the players mic'd up from the week before, and like, you know, getting to know these players' personalities. There's definitely like, you know, there's definitely, I guess, opportunities like to sort of, I guess, binge watch, even though like as the season goes, it's hard to binge watch a series like, you know, United in Football or an MLFB season series, because, you know, it's week by week and the season's progressing. Like it's not pre-produced. But I mean, just like, watch, rewatch, heck, even binge watch if you get behind on some of the episodes of an MLFB series. I think this is a great move if it's true to go to Amazon Prime for all the reasons you stated, like rather than a traditional, channel. Like you said, I mean, the time slot thing is something that I just didn't think of too, because a lot of people are in the same mindset where it's like, if you're a cord cutter, the only option that you have really is, over the air and antenna, which, I mean, it's a good option, but it's not the only one. It only becomes a pricey option when you have multiple, like a lot of Americans do and are not realizing it. But I mean, if like in the war of streaming services, this certainly gives Amazon Prime like a leg up. I mean, gives them something that Hulu doesn't have, that certainly Netflix doesn't have either. So for sure, like I think this is great for both sides.
Well, the one thing Amazon Prime has that nobody other streaming service has is the marketplace, the free shipping. Mostly people get it for that, and then they just happen to get the video, and then they go through that eventually. But so that's like another thing that lures them in. But one thing you were mentioning about I forgot what made me think of it, but having the documentary series that'll help get these host city fans more attached to the players and see more of an identity of the team, right? And when you had the USFL, you look at the Birmingham Stallions, right? Look at the TV ratings they got, look at the fans they drew in versus the other teams that were just kind of there in the hub city. When you have the home team actually there, look at how much support they garnered from the fan base in relation to everything else. So you could see actually being in these host cities makes a huge difference to the fans having an emotional bond with the team and feeling, yes, I want to support the team. They're here in my city, or my region. So I think that's going to be a big thing for actually getting fans in the stands. Oh, one thing I didn't tell you, pregame, Twitter, whatever, is I have a friend who's been counting the ticket sales. And I think it's I don't want to misquote because I messed up on my podcast about this once, was Alabama. That's right, Alabama. They've already sold about 2,500 tickets so far for their games, and a week or so. So they're working towards it, and they haven't even got a real marketing effort, which I'm looking forward to see what they do for marketing, whether they do like targeted advertising on Facebook, which was my number one idea, because I went through a few ideas myself and thought, how could you sell tickets to these stadiums? And yeah, I mean, if people are scrolling through Facebook and they see there's football in their area, tickets as low as $10, you click the link, you buy a couple tickets, you go to the game. It's really simple, and it's a cheap, effective way for, I think, MLFB to put some butts in these seats and get some good looks on the TV, with, you don't want to see an empty crowd, when you're watching football games. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I think too, as well, an opportunity which, like, I mean, I have Prime Video for the shipping. I haven't really looked at much of the options in terms of streaming, but when it comes, I'm not sure if there's ad space within the broadcast themselves, but this is great opportunities for these cities to really, display themselves, like with like tourist ads. Like I know a big thing with the USFL is like there were tons of ads from Birmingham's, I guess, Department of Tourism, telling people to come to Birmingham. And like even when I was watching some of these episodes, because I was in Augusta, Georgia for all the fall last year and into the beginning of 2022 this year. And I would be watching the game with my mom and brother on a weekend when I'd come home and be like, oh man, I was there. I'd point to the Vulcan statues. Oh man, I was on top of that statue. It's a good city. So it's a good opportunity for Mobile, for Virginia Beach, I mean, Canton, Ohio doesn't really need much advertising, for football fans, but but also Little Rock, I guess I get a chance for like Little Rock because Little Rock's a city of a lot of history, a chance to sort of display that, like make a tourism ad about like visiting, Little Rock Central High School with the Little Rock Nine back in the late 50s and stuff. So, I mean, great opportunity there. So, I mean, I see nothing but great things. And also too, I guess one final thing I thought about the Amazon Prime deal is with them doing the Thursday night package now for the NFL. It's just kind of like I guess it's kind of a rehearsal for Amazon Prime to get into like their own, I guess, comfortability, producing football games. Even though I'm not sure how much of a hand the NFL probably has a big hand in like how those games are produced with the Thursday night football games. But just like I guess like a good rehearsal for them. And then also too, I looked at the the preseason national football schedule, the national TV schedule, and August 25th on a Thursday night, the Niners are playing the Texans on Amazon Prime. So,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
you say you subscribe earlier that week, you know, to Amazon Prime, and you get to see an MLFB game, and not even on purpose, even though I'm not sure how many people would subscribe to MLFB just to watch a preseason game. You know, that's true sicko energy. But yeah, just elaborating the point that if this is true, keep in mind it is a leak. We're not saying it's true. Then this would be huge for MLFB.
Yeah, so with the leak, they ended up taking it down afterwards, but they didn't make like a retraction. They didn't say this is false information. And I actually reached out to the journalist that posted this and everything, and she told me that she was told this information, but she took it down to verify it. The last that I heard, she reached out to Amazon, but didn't hear back from them yet regarding that. Sorry, I ran out of water and my throat's dry. But whew, that really hits you hard. But yeah, so she reached out and didn't hear back, but she heard it from the player, and then I messaged the player. I did some investigative journalism, talked to the player about it, and the thing is, he was a little coy about it. Like, he's like, "Oh, I don't really remember where I heard it from. It might have been a couple players saying it or something," but I think he really wanted to protect his source and not get in trouble or anything. So, you know, it just happens. You know, sometimes you talk to a journalist and you say things, you know, that aren't supposed to be out there because it's just a conversation, and you forget to tell the journalist, hey, you know, this isn't fully truth yet. We can't really post this, but because you're excited as a player, you're excited to play the game, you're excited to have an interview, you know, for a news station. Because this was Youngstown, Ohio TV news. I mean, he wasn't on TV, of course. Actually, no, this was a video piece. I don't know if they got it on the air, but they had a video portion of it as well. So it was a big time thing for Shahan, you know, getting some exposure. So, I mean, things slip out. I mean, these executives got to know that players are going to talk, and they know players talk. So if Ward happened to leak that it's Amazon Prime, which I think it isn't a real leak, I think it's a legit thing. Maybe they're finalizing the deal, or maybe they're just got to ink something or have to finish it up or make it official or something. And a big thing, I'm going to keep dragging on here. A big thing
For sure.
with them making it official, right? For the company and for the stock, when they do, Amazon might put a thing out there, like a press release saying, hey, we're broadcasting MLFB games as a PR thing, a press release on, you know, AP or whatever. And people that follow Amazon stock are going to be like, what's this company MLFB? Suddenly you got millions and millions, to quote The Rock, fans, you know, or Amazon stockholders thinking, I got to invest in this little $12-13 million stock. And suddenly you're an investor in this company in MLFB, and you're like, look at my stock going up. You know, it's always nice in a bear market as we are right now. It's stuff, you know, crazy for something to actually work out for people. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. And I actually might put my Amazon Prime to use. So, I mean, for me, Amazon Prime is like an emergency thing. It's like if I need something like ASAP, then like Amazon Prime is like right there with the 2-day shipping to minimize damage control. I mean, it can be more than just I wouldn't say life insurance, but it's just like, I guess, supply insurance, like supply for your life insurance. So yeah, I mean, I'd certainly use it too for like the first couple weeks or for the first couple weeks and everything, you know, just to see what happens. So I'm excited for this. If it's true, I'm excited for confirmation. I bet that I'll have the same reaction, but probably as you, but probably like more composed, just because I'll probably be at work when I find out, and just happen to be on Twitter finding it out, and you know, I won't want to act out. But no, Matt, this is a good discussion. I'm more excited too, just you know, just feeding off your excitement.
Well, that's great, man. I tend to hear that my excitement gets a little contagious with people, you know, even like just typing, you know, or something, because I get really enthusiastic about my hobbies and interests and things I'm involved in. So, you know, I don't know if we're ending the podcast here. I didn't take a timer to see how long you've been doing this, but I think we've covered quite a bit, you know, and I think I'm excited to see, you know, where they end up, if it's actually Amazon, or even another target that they showed in their investor presentation was Bally Sports. Although it's more of a local thing, that's one of those things where it's like it would make sense to run syndication of those documentary series on before the games and after the games. Like I know they do for my local baseball team, the Tampa Bay Rays. They run a lot of those like inside the Rays things over and over and over again to fill programming. So that's probably one of the pitches that MLFB were making to the Bally reps, because they said they were talking to everybody a long time ago when I talked to the CEO. I was like, who are you talking about with your deal? He's like, oh, we're talking to everybody. So he was out there putting feelers out to all these execs because apparently there's a big demand for these spring football leagues when you got USFL getting bought up by Fox. They're at a big valuation, and then XFL gets a nice long deal with ESPN and Disney. So I mean, that's a big market now for this year-round football.
Absolutely. So I think you saying that with Valley Sports, I think it's great too. It's like because like what do we call it's like the MLFB season, like it's at the tail end of the baseball season. And I think about the four markets that the season's taking place. You got Canton, Ohio, near Cleveland. I mean, the Cleveland Guardians. I mean, I'm a Guardians fan, since I watched Major League as a kid. Don't ask why. Only recently did I realize it was a rated R movie, and I should not have been watching it as a kid. My parents let me buy it because it had baseball players on the cover. So I mean, you just blame my parents. But yeah. So like you look at the Guardians, they might be in the AL wild card race. So I mean, if like I guess like if sorry, excuse me, let me gather myself. So
That's
Valley Sports Ohio, they can have probably like a tape delayed version of the game, after the Cleveland Guardians local game, or like even before if they're playing on the West Coast against like the Oakland Athletics or like the LA Angels, do like a tape delay. And like the same thing too. Like I mean, it's like the perfect storm for some markets too. Like you look at like the Virginia Beach, which I'm not sure if that's the Orioles territory or the Nationals, but like the Orioles have been pretty much one of the big stories of baseball this year. And they could be in the thick of the AL wild card race come, well, yeah, I guess like in the next 3 weeks. I don't expect them to fold in the next 3 weeks as a good young team, where you're looking at maybe those games being sort of tape delayed after an Orioles game, and like the Orioles game serves as a lead in for a tape delayed MLFB game on Masson, so the opportunities definitely are there in those markets for sure, like you say.
Oh yeah, I think I want to say Virginia Beach is a Nationals market because they're pretty close to
Ah,
DC and
darn.
Virginia. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Darn it. Never mind then. Forget that. Nationals are in a bit of a rebuild. But hey, Juan Soto, you're watching Juan Soto, and that's
Oh
your
yeah.
lead in, I guess.
Who knows where he's gonna go right after after Washington. Imagine if the Yankees, pick up Juan Soto or something like, geez, like where are they even gonna fit him? Where are they even gonna fit?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Or the
exactly.
Mets. I think if anybody overspend on Juan Soto, the Mets will be like, yeah, we're just going over that luxury tax threshold more and more.
Yep. Yeah, I guess those as a small market team fan, that's not something I want to think of, either of those teams grabbing up more players. But yeah, I mean, just something to think of too with the league's options for television. So this is a great discussion, Matt. I really enjoyed it. Do you have anything else to add?
No, man, it's always fun coming on here, and getting on camera and talking MLFB stuff. I pretty much read about it all day on Twitter and the subreddit, and I'm in the Discord talking to people all day, and they're telling me how it's not going to work. And yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like all the same people that hated on the USFL before they came out, they're shifted pace and putting their hate towards MLFB. So you gotta just let it slip by. Although sometimes, I let it get to me, and we go our little back and forth. I don't know if you ever go on the Discord, but but it's just the usual suspects. So mostly I have them blocked, but then I'll click the block message and see, oh, yep, another one of those, and then I'll start typing. But anyways, it's been fun being on the show here. I got a radio spot tomorrow. That's gonna be that's Saturday at 10 a.m. on Virginia Sports Radio, 8:50 a.m., 96.5, I want to say FM. I get to talk MLFB there. My podcast is Mickle's MLFB podcast. It's if you search for MLFB, I'm Mickle's MLFB podcast on Spotify, so you'll find me there. And I do one episode approximately a week, give or take. If there's not any real news going on, and I can't drum up some stuff in my head, I'll just skip a few days and wait for something to come out. But I generally post on a weekly basis or more. So, but anyways, it's been fun being on the show here, and I'll see you next time.
For sure. And I'll have Matt's podcast information and everything in the link below. And it's funny I think you mentioned it was in the Norfolk area, right? For the radio appearance. Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the podcast, you're from the Norfolk area, and then followed the podcast after I talked about the great and sensational Norfolk State quarterback Jawan Carter and their great defensive end Deshaun Dixon, who recently graduated this year, then you should be in for a treat if you're in the Norfolk area listening to this, and see Matt or hear Matt on the radio. But until next time, everyone, this has been fun, and peace, love, and soul.